Hi, Katrina.
Hello, Will. How are you?
I'm good. So you're at home
Yes,
in the hallway.
yes. It's a nice hallway, though.
It's lovely. Do I know that chair? I believe I might have sat on that chair.
I think you have. It's one of my favorite
Is
chairs.
that the hot
Yeah.
seat? Um, I'm in my mother's bedroom in Cornwall.
And this is our first time doing this, so it's exciting.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Because we were talking. Um, so I should probably give a background that um, when I was ill and went to Kieran House, you were clinic director. I don't know what
Yeah,
your
I think, yeah, clinical lead then and then clinical director. Yeah,
so because it was three times that I came in, so we've got to know each other very well over the years.
very well.
Um, I think I used to say, I think the first thing I used to say to you in my sessions was, "I'm brilliant. I know I'm brilliant. I just can't function."
Yes, yes. It was, you knew it was there. There was a
Yeah,
lot of that, but you didn't feel it. You couldn't really connect with it. It was a thought process, but the felt process was something really different. It was, you were a long way from it. So we filled the gulf.
we did feel the gulf, and that's a whole other book. And we were talking uh, about a month ago, maybe or less, when I was out in America, and we were talking and I either said asked I think I might have asked you because I get or get hypervigilance. I would say I
Yeah.
have an anxiety. I don't like the word disorder, but I have an anxiety. Don't know what
Issue?
issue. Yeah, or a nervous system that's very heightened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so often going out for me is difficult and I can depersonalize very quickly, which is when I sort of slightly leave my body or I get brain fog um, and I was when the lockdown came in, I sort of a large part of me sort of breathed a sigh of relief. So I remember
Yeah.
asking you, how has it been? Obviously without divulging anything, you know, from your clients, but how has it been? How have you found it? Have people been more in touch? And we started that conversation.
Yes. And you were quite both relieved and surprised when I said, "Oh, I have spoken to so many people this week, and 99% of them have all said the same thing. This is, it gives them permission to do all the things that they've always found so difficult. It gives them permission to stay at home, to not go out, to not interact with people. Now that's what everybody's supposed to do, and so it just took all that those things that were deemed as something not right with them, something that they needed to work on, now being instructed they have to do that. Foot off the gas. This is great. And it made life so much easier for so many people.
Do you think should we start with sort of what those kind of anxiety disorders, states of physical being, mental being, because the mind and bodies go together, really,
Yeah.
of course. Um, should we talk about first what those kind of states are and what happens with people, when they don't want to leave,
Yeah.
can't leave the house. So what is that to begin with? Is it hypervigilance? Is it?
There's a number of things, and obviously they vary as to what different parts you have. But generally speaking, if you have problems going out, if it feels scary, if it feels daunting going out, if being out and being around people is really, really hard, then you know that there's at least one part of you that is scared, that has been hurt or have found people dangerous, unpredictable, can't read them. Those parts of you will then dissociate. You talk about depersonalization, and it can just feel as though, for people like myself, who I don't have a trauma history, I'm very, very lucky. The closest that I can get to it is when you've had flu and you've been completely isolated and you're not yourself, you're feeling ill, you go back out and it's like a bubble.
Mm.
Everybody seems to be doing this thing with ease, chatting away, being shopping, and you're kind of on the outside, you're a bit disconnected from it. What we don't realize is we're actually triggered and disconnected from ourselves. Our nervous system has become overwhelmed. So we can't relate. It feels very distant. For some people, it can go very dull, blurry. Their senses don't work properly. Huge feelings of anxiety. For some people, it's a panic attack. They have to leave the trolley in Sainsbury's. For other people, it's just the worry of the panic attack. For most people, just the thought of going out, it's like we'll bring on 100 different parts of avoidance. Heaviness, shutdown, complete lack of motivation, to absolute hypervigilance. So sensory overload. Colors, sounds, movement, all of those things can be completely overwhelming for the nervous system. So if some parts of you struggle, there are so many different ways that that's going to show up, but so many people have one or two of those things. Getting out, if you just have one of those, let alone two or three of those, it's a really, really difficult process. It's unpredictable, it's chaotic, scary, and you can't communicate that to anybody.
No, I mean, I feel very, emotional hearing you talk about it
Yeah,
uh, because I think, because I mean, even though I've known you for years, it's hearing you explain a condition that I have, um,
yeah.
and kind of I get some sort of validation just from hearing you, uh, talk about a condition and the symptoms, and almost it almost makes it more factual, and because there's so much shame and frustration for
Oh
me,
yeah,
that comes with, and I didn't have it until I crashed, and had my breakdown and came to Kieran House. Uh, there's just so much shame and frustration, and that it must be something. I think this is what it is. It must be something that I'm not doing right to be
yes,
able to get there. Because, and I think a lot of the messages we get, even in mental health, are get your CBT thinking working, get your right, get your brain working. Even though the brain's gone offline, I want to ask you about that because I think it's really interesting for people to hear. Um, just get out there is obviously the, one we know well. Come on, just get on with it, get out there. Um, do some exercise, or all these things. Just eat healthy, or try and do
yeah,
one thing. Someone said to someone I know the other day who was having a really bad time. I heard someone else say to them, maybe try and get out and just do a bit of gardening. I'm terrified of my garden in London. I mean, it's like, I mean, I can barely sit in my nice little glass box extension. It's like I feel
yeah.
safe up in the bedroom, preferably the bathroom. That's the best, you know. So hearing you talk about it is so nice because I have so much, even though I know what it is. There's a lot of shame and frustration and inward criticizing that goes
Oh
on,
yeah.
you know, and it's so difficult. It's difficult for me, and it's so difficult for so many people. They might not even know that they have it.
Well, no, and the problem is it kind of comes out in behaviors. and the way that you feel, and that can be so different to how you think. So your shaming part and all the things that you know, it's like everybody else can do it. Why can't I? What's wrong with me? What am I, like you say, what am I not doing? Or what am I doing wrong?
Mm.
And push through, come on, get your grit and determination. And just telling yourself, that's how you know there's something else underneath it. Because if you can really look around you and go, there's nothing wrong, it's all safe, it's absolutely fine, there's no danger here, great. When that doesn't work, those two things don't match, you know that there's something else has triggered your nervous system. And no amount of thinking is good. It only brings your self-critic out. It's like, well, what's wrong with me? Come on, get a grip. When we've got little parts that are frightened, I always say to people, if this was a genuine, if you could take all our little parts like a Russian doll and line them up, the little one at the bottom, if it went, I'm too scared to go out there, I don't feel safe, everything feels wobbly and there's nobody to look after me, I don't know what's going to happen. The last thing you would do would go, you're pathetic. What's wrong with you? Come on, shout at them. They'd make it worse.
Unless that's in their, I guess, in their history, in someone's history from, if that's learnt, behavior from parents,
Sure,
you know.
it's unlikely, if that's a learned behaviour and you're still struggling with it, it's unlikely to have been a very helpful one. It might be really familiar, but if that was going to work,
Yeah,
it would have worked by now.
yeah, yeah.
Because we parent those little parts. You're absolutely right. Exactly the way they've been parented. It's the only way we know. So we're probably, if that's happened to us, we're going to go repeat all those things and then be doubly hard on yourself because it's not worked. And then that sense of panic, not knowing what to do, that's really the kind of hopelessness that goes with that. I've tried everything.
Do you think so? I was always very, and oh God, that's my father talking in the background. I'll just, I'll just shut the door.
Good old dads, eh?
Well, you know what he's like.
But yeah.
You know what he's like. Got the best sense of humour. Bloody nuts. No, I was.
Yeah.
He's not.
And it
Um,
never switches off either.
do you remember when? Do you remember when? I mean, I'm happy to talk about this. Do you remember when Kieran House was in Oxford, and I was
I
going
know
to,
what you're going to say.
and I was going to meet him for lunch, and he was bringing Esme just to say hello, and I didn't know that you were on lunch as well, and I went to meet him, and he was sitting on the floor. He'd taken his sort of flower pot hat off, had Esme on a lead, and was asking for money from people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you saw it, and I just looked at you and said, "That's my dad."
And then it just sparked up, he saw a big opportunity.
Yeah.
So you were trying to calm it down, and he went, I've got a great idea. He lay on the floor outside Brown's, out near the sign with Esme, she's lovely and scruffy,
Oh.
homeless looking dog. Take my picture.
Oh,
I'm with my supervisor, going for supervision.
oh yeah.
Professional,
Oh
very
yeah.
professional
Oh
woman.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, take the picture. All these people walking past, middle of Oxford.
It's fun. It's actually his best. Honestly, one of his best qualities is his sense of humor. It's just, I praise the Lord that I've got that. You know what I mean from him. Um,
Yeah,
I was going to say. So before I got really ill, I always still would. I don't know if I ever said this to you. I must have. Would cancel things last minute.
yeah.
Wouldn't go to things. Would get in a right old tiz on a Friday night, particularly. I wonder if anyone else has this. Because Friday night is
The going out
go go
night.
go.
Start the weekend.
Yeah, start the weekend and weekends. So then, like, what are you doing for the weekend? And I would sort of oscillate between, you know, feeling desperate if no one if there were no plans, but then if people had plans and I could go and see them, I wouldn't want to do them. And so when I look back, I think I never really massively enjoyed socializing that much.
Yeah,
No, it then got a lot worse when I had my breakdown. What's the difference from, because I think a lot of people don't really like socializing that much, and the lockdown might have given them permission, like you use the word permission,
absolutely.
to actually go, oh, I don't have to go and see those people. I think lots of people just prefer staying in their house.
I think that's why a lot of people, why so many going out occasions are, they're accompanied by alcohol. For some people, different kinds of drugs as well, because it is probably a lot more daunting than 90% of us are actually prepared to admit to. You
Yeah,
know, we want to walk in and hi, hi, hi. You don't know how many whiskies or something somebody's had to be able to walk in and pretend to be okay. Wouldn't it be great? That's what you and I were talking about, which is part of the reason that we're
yeah,
doing this,
yeah.
to open up this conversation. Wouldn't it be great if there was just a lot more honesty around that? And we were fully accepting that instead of pretending it's an easy thing and we're great at it, that actually it's quite a daunting thing. And if it's daunting for people with a really sound nervous system and not much of a trauma history, oh, I'd,
Yeah.
I'd just turn the volume up on that 100 times.
So do you think that, so for people that really do, because it's interesting because there is a sort of scale then, isn't there, a sliding scale. Um,
Oh yeah,
do you think that it would, that people might, if people were more honest, then it would make it easier for people such as myself who really find it very difficult, just to go get a coffee in the morning?
yeah. When you think about one of the biggest things that I try and teach people, or try and get the place that I get them to, is a place of acceptance. Because when we're at a place of acceptance, it doesn't mean, oh, so I have to say this is the way it's going to be for the rest of my life. No, it's the place that you stop fighting. It's a place that you accept
Yeah.
why this has happened to you, why you're like this,
Mm.
and you are. So you stop fighting. From that place, change can happen. Well, if we take that to another level and say, well, if that was the case in society, if we could have some acceptance that this is hard, it's a real thing. People are nervous. We
Yeah.
stop having to pretend. Then surely we can be kinder. It can be different. If the expectation is going out a little bit nervous, who's going to be there? Oh, I don't know. Am I going to look right? I mean, I bet you can catastrophize for Britain about
Let's go
what
on.
could happen, what people are going to be thinking, what what all of those things, and then say, okay, so everybody's thinking the same thing. Brilliant. When I think when I first started playing tennis matches for teams, I was a wee bit crap, and I knew that.
No,
I know, I know.
you're so good. You're in the 80s.
You are so kind.
You're captain.
Carry on, carry on. And only because nobody else wants to do it. I'm a lot better than I was, but I was so nervous, and I was trying really hard not to be nervous. My hand would shake when I'm trying to throw the ball up, until somebody said to me, everybody's really nervous. We all get nervous before a match. It was such a big revelation.
Amazing.
The difference it makes, just knowing that. It makes it one more fun, takes the pressure off. You know what you need to. I can look after myself a whole lot better. You could look after yourself a whole lot better if you knew that you weren't having to pretend, that everybody gets because they get it too, to a degree, that this is actually quite daunting. The lights are bright, the big crowds of people. It'd be great if that was just took all the pretense out of it.
I mean, I agree, and I feel I've got sort of two things that come up for me when I heard you say what you were just saying about losing that pretense, and your teammate or whoever the other player was, said, we're all nervous, or we all get nervous, and that sort of brings me back to that word, almost permission again, but also validation,
Yeah,
because one of the big things I've noticed for myself is the pretending makes it 10 times worse. Having to pretend, how are you? Yeah, everything's good. Whereas when you know, I just messaged someone actually, I haven't heard from in ages, and he said, how are you doing? I'm up and down. And he gets it. So I can
yeah,
say, oh, I'm up and down, sort of usual stuff really, and I'm managing it really well, you know, and it's not overinflated from there. Whereas I think a lot of people, because they can't, they either go into panic mode or they just kind of shut down and don't even hear you. You know,
yeah.
there's people don't really talk about their emotional state, and and the sort of the pretending, I think, for myself, makes it 10 times worse. In fact, normally, if I'm validated, I normally calm down after a couple of
Of
minutes.
course you do. The pretending, it's like you've got your coping mechanisms that go along with that. The certain things you'll do that are not really you at your best, you in just your normal life. If you could just be you and not have to pretend, and you might be even be a better pretender because you're an actor
Mm.
than a lot of people. That it's really, how many people do you see going, "Yeah, great," and you think, "Oh, really?" And it's uncomfortable because it doesn't match. If we could just take that away, then everybody would be able to read each other much better. We
Mm.
humans like to know, there's nothing worse than not being able to read someone. It makes us really, really suspicious, or we
Yeah,
think that
te-
somebody's.
tell me about that more. Can you tell me? Because I think that's so interesting.
Well, it's a similar thing to if somebody says something but they're thinking something else. You just everything in them doesn't match. And when you think that, like, the communication that goes on between two people, even on screen here, because you and I know each other really well and we're really tuned into each other, only 25% of what we're actually, how we're communicating are the words. Everything else is the expression around the eyes, the tone of voice, the matching of the movements to the. So if you're pretending, then there's going to be unless you are amazing at it, then it's not going to quite match, and so it's going to make people just slightly uneasy. And we humans always go, "Oh, they seem a little bit off. What have I done? It must be me." Oh,
Oh my
it's
God.
not just children. We all do it. And we might go around and check with other people. So and so, she said anything to you about me? Is she all right? She seems a bit off. Like, what have I? Do you know if I've done anything? Did I not reply to something? Did I laugh inappropriately, which I can do a lot? And it's like it must be me. So that puts your nervous system up. It puts you a little bit on edge. Your hypervigilance, your paranoia. If we took the pretending and the not matching out, it when we can read someone and their expression seems appropriate and it seems to match what they're saying, it's very honest, and trust is a huge thing for us. And so we know, because it's all making sense, it all seems to match, that we're safe.
Mm.
So if you can sense a little bit of fear or unease about somebody, but they're doing their best to pretend to everybody that they're not, that not matching is much more likely to make people kind of just take a step back from you. So all your pretending coping mechanisms are probably more inclined to distance people. People who are more comfortable in their own skin and will walk in and go, oh, God, this is awful. This is my idea of hell. Everybody goes, thank God, me too.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one.
It's very, it's so interesting that because so people, so we, I believe through the therapy that I've done, the trauma therapy, the somatic therapy, the um, sensory motor therapy, feeling into, you know,
Yep.
different parts of my body and what's going on there. I never really thought about myself as a sort of sensory person that might be picking up on other people's stuff. You know, it was all
Yeah.
in my head and fix the head, you know, and actually, as you know, I can pick up someone's stuff instantly.
Oh, yeah.
My, you know, because of my traumatic past and being
Oh,
having survived, so being able to do that, you know, and having to work out someone very quickly, so I can then work out how to be safe around them. Um,
yep.
it's been an amazing thing for me to kind of notice it. I mean, I still will think, oh gosh, it's my fault. What have I done? Um, do you think we all have that? That we just don't know that we're doing it? Do you think? Because I think most people don't even know that they can sense what other people's is going on with them, you know?
I completely agree. I think the people who, um, I've always done it. And when I went on my training, I thought everybody worked like that. What I didn't realize was that a lot of people are just in their head and they're not really tuned in. If you if things have happened to you, and emotionally you've been kind of told to shut it down or you get ignored or punished, then you're going to cut off from it and from your feelings because it's the only safe way to be. So you're not going to get the signals that come from your body. So you need to be taught to tune back in. The body will tell you way more than your head. How often do we, if we're thinking about what to do with something, we'll have our first initial reaction to something, and then we talk ourselves out of it. And we go, no, that's probably not such a good idea, because, and then all the reasoning bits come. And we disregard what's been told, and then we go and do it, and then we go, why did I not listen? I knew that I knew it wasn't right, and I just ignored it. And you say, well, maybe next time you'll take note. Yes, I will. No, you won't. Because we've been taught that heads know best. You're only ever taught at school to use your head.
Yeah.
Work it out. Let's think less. This can't get it wrong. If our first kind of response to somebody is whoa, then there's something about that person that it's a problem, or it's going to be a problem. We're just sensing something. It might settle. It might just be that they're pretending like crazy and they're scaring the living daylights out of us. But if we listen to it, it would tell us so much more. Your hypervigilance is so tuned in, it will get there way quicker than your head.
Yeah.
Way, way, way quicker.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when you come in, you always kind of know, whenever I see you, you always assess me brilliantly, spot on. You're a little bit tired, or has it been a hard week, or oh, you
Oh
seem
no.
happy.
Oh no.
No, it can be positive too.
Yeah. But I mean, it's an amazing tool to have because it's sort of like a double-edged, for me, it's a double-edged sword because I'm so hypersensitive the hypervigilance and dependent on how I can get to a grounded place to then, be out in the world. Um, that that can be bring trickiness. However, it's also I've learned a real gift because I can really empathize with people. If I'm boundaried, I'm
Yeah.
taking on their stuff, you know, because that's the other thing. If I'm not boundaried when I wasn't, I would just be taking on someone's stuff, whoever it was. My God, it was like a feather in the wind. But if I can be boundaried in myself and contained, I can really tune in with someone and you know, as long as I feel kind of safe, I can really get someone very quickly and weirdly, well, quite often in work situations because I feel sort of more in control in work
Yeah.
than I would,
Yeah,
it's
it's very comfortable for you.
yeah, it's comfortable, and people will say like, well, how do you do that and not that? It's like, well, you know, doing this is a lot easier than whatever, but it allows me to my hyper sensitivity of which I can really tell very quickly what's going on with someone can really help me like get the best out of people and get on with people. And I think that for a lot of people they can't maybe see that it can be a gift as well as something that can make life a bit difficult.
Yes. Do you ever find that it's slightly alarming for people when you get them?
Oh,
The people who are hiding often, I can be a wee bit spooky sometimes for people because when you just get them and you get things about them that they think they're hiding and you don't mean to, it can be a little bit like, how did you know? God, normally people see this about me. No, oh, that's interesting.
and I think a lot of people have it more than again. That's something else that people. I think people pick up on stuff from people way more than they would admit, let's
Yeah,
say. Like I have a friend, and I know that friend, I'll keep the friend gender neutral, really picks up on people's stuff. And I think that person can find it really difficult,
yeah,
you know, and hasn't been taught to learn to feel boundaried and safe, so that they're not picking up on other people's energy, particularly people's energies that are uncontained, because they just come into a room and it's like, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's everywhere.
It's, I mean, we all have the same brain, the same nervous system, all the same kind of physiological, which is why, everybody that I meet, they might have, it's affected them in different ways. That's the brilliant thing about the journey. Is like no two people are the same. You can't make assumptions about people, but generally speaking, we kind of work in the same way.
Mm.
So our experiences will have these kind of effects on us because we're social human. We're social creatures. We get cues of people, both positive and negative, and based on how safe we feel often, if you're with somebody who's really really comfortable in their own skin, then they're really in tune with themselves,
Mm.
and they're very in tune with other people, and they're very accepting of what's happening. They're very hard to shame. So the
Mm.
more connected and the more in tune you can get with yourself and the more accepting you can be, the easier all of those things are. So if your friend was able to be taught how to kind of manage, notice the impact that this was having, and why some things were more impacting and a bit more kind of dysregulating than others, and how to, like you say, regulate yourself, then that person would be much more able to be around these people, for it to not send them out of their window of tolerance.
Mm.
And you know it would just make life so much easier.
Can you say what the what a window of tolerance is?
Yeah, it's very much, it's a sensory motor term that I was taught. And it's really useful because it's the, if you think of it as your window in there, that down the bottom and out of the top of your window are when you're not coping. There you're probably going to be shut down. Out there you're probably going to be very dissociated and not with it. Panic attacks, flight, fright, or freeze things are happening in that space. I've got a very wide window of tolerance, so I can cope with a lot of emotional whoa and whoa and still stay functional. So I'm able to deal with that with a lot of people, and also in life takes a lot to push me out of those. I've got a good attachment system. If you're not taught how to be kind of emotionally intelligent and emotionally functional, then you'll have a narrow window. So it'll be you'll got less to play with. So it takes a lot less to kind of knock you out of your system. And when you're little, you've only got a little one. Little things are like the end of the world. Oh my
Mm.
God. It's just throw myself on the floor and I'm going to die now. The more of those things that happen when they're mismanaged, the smaller our window of tolerance stays. The more we can cope with, the more resilience we have, the more we can regulate ourselves, we can cope with more. We can just absorb and deal with more. And so a lot of the work I do is widening people's window. So things that would trigger you with a narrow window, wider window, they're not going to trigger you.
So it's a developmental problem
Yes, very
that
much so.
and that means that our window of tolerance, our ability to keep ourselves regulated, is doesn't grow as it could or should, you know.
Yes.
So it remains small. So effectively, I might be 41, but I could have the tolerance window of a 1 year old.
Yeah, you could do. I mean, and if you think, that's why, and how your attachment system works is very much, if you think about what you do with attachment, is you're teaching somebody to regulate your whatever emotional state they are. The more you can, meet it, regulate them as quickly as possible, validate, like you said before, really important. Teaches people that they can manage these things, that they're not overwhelming, they're okay. They know that they can get help from someone, so people are safer. And they can get more independent because they can move away because they know that they can come back and get it. So it's a really healthy way to be. If you've got if you're in a car crash, for instance, and there's 4 people in the car, the people with the secure attachment system, they're going to be the ones that have got the high capacity. They're probably not going to go into a freeze. They're probably going to be able to function, and they're not going to suffer PTSD afterwards. And depending on what your early experiences are, very much, and a bit of your genetic makeup as well,
Mm.
will determine. That's why there's no hierarchy, and the 3 people in the car crash that are all fine, and the one that can't get in a car afterwards, there's no amount of saying to them, oh, for God's sake, come on, we're fine. Why are you not fine? What's wrong with you? There's no hierarchy. It just depends. And we don't know what things are lying in our amygdala to be triggered. So, it should be a universal thing. None of us, me included, are immune from from being traumatized or triggered. It's just that some of these things will lie dormant and can be awakened through certain experiences. That's happened for a lot of clients that's happened to. I was fine until this happened.
Mm. Well,
Interesting.
yeah, that because I was fine at least. Well, I wasn't
Yeah.
fine actually, but I wasn't. I didn't have this hypervigilance. That then when I had my breakdown, then suddenly all the traumatic stuff came up. Oh, here's a question for you. So, can you? So hypervigilance. the hypervigilance that came up for me, was that buried always at the and just didn't come up before, or was the hypervigilance caused by all that traumatic stuff coming out? Does that make sense? It's such a
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
convoluted topic. It's so hard to.
Well, what was, you were functioning okay. All of these experiences that you had that were actually quite traumatic, they were still in there, but they were lying there a little bit dormant. Nothing had really poked them and shaken them up.
Mm,
When you had your breakdown, it would have been a series. It wouldn't have been one thing.
mm,
It would have been steps that just gradually took away your resilience,
mm,
took away your coping mechanisms. We only all have so much resilience and coping mechanisms. We've all got the thing that just is too much. And when that happens, then we go out of our window where we dissociate, we can't function anymore. That sets up its own sense of panic and what's wrong with me. And the triggers and the trauma that have lain dormant can then come out. And that happens a lot because we're at our most vulnerable, and it's like, here they are. And once they're out and triggered, it's very difficult to get them back in.
mm,
And so your hypervigilance is kind of, it doesn't, your that part of you doesn't know what's happening. All you're aware of is that your nervous system is being triggered and you feel absolutely terrified or frozen, and nothing's working anymore. So your brain is getting this message that there's something seriously wrong. It thinks, because it's the kind of caveman-y bit, that there's a threat out here, because the trauma that's triggered, it's got no chronology. It's going off like it went off way back then. You relive it. And so you're absolutely, in completely sight, sound, hear, everything is on full alert. So you're getting way more information than you can cope with. And the higher intelligence and the more creative we are, the wider the scope, because we can imagine the very, very worst.
mm.
So you won't miss anything, but it's way overload.
Is for people that have anxiety problems, is the key? I mean, I know everyone says it, and sometimes it's really boring. I call it like, those annoying books that people give to you that are small, and you have them by the loo, and they say like, smile, and the world smiles with you. Fuck off. You know, I'm like, fuck you.
Yes.
They really piss me off. But the reason I'm mentioning those is people say, look inwards. Just go inwards and look. But I really have noticed that to really settle, I have to go in to settle, to then kind of go out, even if it's a bad day, to manage to go to the kitchen and get something to eat, or if it's a really good day, or
Yeah.
if I'm neutral to do whatever. I've got
Oh,
to kind of take it inward. I know that's what we've done and do in our sessions, and to resolve all this traumatic, all these traumatic feelings that are going on. And
but if you remember, and I hope it's all right to say, in the beginning, when we were starting doing bodywork, that was the last place you wanted to go.
God, I don't remember that. Would I
Because
talk?
and you're very typical of a lot of people. It's like, and you used to, I mean, and you're so blooming engaging. You would be, oh, can I just ask you this thing? Oh, can I tell you about something that happened? And you would want to keep in your head. And I'd go, okay, now we're going to go in. And you go, oh, do we have
I
to?
just felt it just there when he said that. I'm like, oh God, she's going in.
Absolutely. Because here's where the problem is. This is where it's like, you wanted me to go in there? Are you serious? It's hideous. It's going off. There's fireworks.
Yeah. It's a
And
bit like So you know that film, is it The Abyss, when they've got the post,
Yeah,
I think just that sort of submarine, or even a person just
it's a
dropping,
wee. I think it's people in a submarine, isn't it?
yeah, just dropping.
Yeah,
So does everyone? Is it like almost a natural thing that we don't want to go towards
yeah.
pain?
It's there's two things. One is when your head gets really really cranked up. If you just say to somebody, "Okay, now go into your body," it's like, how do I do that? Oh my god, I can't stop thinking. Oh my god, oh my god. And for people who see this as the worst place ever, and if they've got any kind of body trauma, they don't want to go there. And a lot of the stuff that I've been posting out is to help people get access to here. So if you're overthinking, you need help to wake your body up to get that connection back. And there's just certain things you can try and do so that you can listen. And just sometimes the process of engaging with your body can start to settle it. Just in the same way, if somebody comes and just sits beside you, they're not trying to do anything, they're just really accepting, however you are, just sits. There's something really comforting
Mm.
about that. So when we can just be there,
They're tips that you can that you've given for people to do that.
yes, and we're doing it in as as many different ways as we can think. And I would love people to just drop a question, say, how can I do this? And just get that dialogue going. Oh, here's some things that could help. Let me know what works. Let me know what doesn't work. If anything different works, brilliant, post that up, because we're all the same.
And where are you doing that? This is your
Yeah, I
you wish.
set up a thing with my daughter. Obviously, I'm not an internety at all. I'm peoply. So it's a We Are Vega Instagram, and there's a website as well, and I think Twitter. Yes, and
And
Facebook.
I'll put
I'll
all this. I'll put it all on. I'll put all the right hashtags. You know that I don't have a clue, but people will be able to find it because we'll ask someone who knows about this stuff to do it.
yes. And
Yeah.
the idea is just to give people access to stuff. This isn't stuff that people are taught. They're taught how to think. Access to their body. Like, as you know, if you can go in and settle it, and if you know what's wrong, and there's some tips about what to do, what to try, and then, being able to manage it, you're going to widen your window of tolerance. You've got control. You've got a way of regulating yourself.
Mm.
Because you said about the developmental, how it was developmental trauma from the window of tolerance. Absolutely, but you can retrain yourself. But you've got to be able to notice. Back to your friend. If your friend could recognize when they're starting to go out of their window and I'm being a bit overwhelmed, recognize the signs. Start to lose connection, my breathing's not great, I feel a bit dizzy or feel a bit sick, and then go, I need to regulate myself, and to know how to do that. Brilliant.
Mm.
What a difference that would make. I mean, because you've got certain things that you do when you resource yourself.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've got a whole flipping tool bag now,
Yeah.
and sometimes one will work. The other day actually was just and I remember them. Like
Yes.
I remembered the importance of, we would in group often have at Kieran House, when we would have group sessions, we'd have some essential oils in case someone, you know,
Yes.
sort of went out their body, and I had some essential oils, and I was a bit nervous before doing some teaching, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm a bit nervous. I'll just smell some lavender, and it kind of just kept me, because I know after 10 minutes, if that 5 minutes, it'll be fine. So I just, things
Yeah.
like that. And humor's a big one for me. I mean, humor's always been it could sometimes be an avoidant as well, but it's a very big resource to kind of get me back in my body.
Oh, I think you and I probably used humor probably more than anything.
Mm.
It's like there's nothing quite like it. And you know, the times that you bring your dogs along, it was laughing at them that was the most regulating thing. I mean, Dragon Dog and Esme, I mean, it's just
I
hilarious.
don't know what she's doing at the moment. Oh, I know my dad's running after her. But it's reminding me, actually, and I know we should end soon, but there is, I think, for me, often because we do have a laugh. People would think, when I mean mental health and physical health, people, it, there are funny sides to it. When I was in treatment, my God, I mean that first time, as you know, we had such a laugh, and we were all, in very ill states
Yeah,
of our varying degrees, and had our own stuff going on. But we really did have a lot of fun, and I think, I the more people that I have around who I can laugh with about the fact that today, I mean, literally, like, today, I'm scared of my dahlia plant. I mean, it literally can be that
yeah,
because it's a different part of the brain, isn't it? It's like,
yeah.
I don't know what's going on. And the more I can have a laugh about it with someone who's not going to panic and doesn't judge and gets it, and just almost like you were saying, the person that sits next to you, God, it helps.
Well, if you're laughing with someone, then you're really connecting with them.
Mm,
So it's a really good connector. You can have a lot, you know, you can be out in the street and something happens. And if I laugh out loud a lot, and and other people do, instantly you've got a connection with that person. And you're much more inclined to say a few things and to spark up a little bit of a conversation. It's like, did that really just happen? That was hilarious, wasn't it? And you go, oh my God, that's happened to me so many times. It it's just such a break. And you know, the work that we did was serious work,
mm,
but healing is, you know, it doesn't have to be such a gloomy, dark. You're already in a gloomy, dark place.
mm.
You can bring some light into it with a bit of humor, connected humor, then it's just what a way of being able to engage with people.
And it reminds me, I know we started this, and talking about how, and I don't, you know I completely validate and do not underestimate the scariness, the uh, all the varying difficult emotions that might come up with the lockdown. And
Absolutely.
started with saying, you know, me myself, when I heard the lockdown, I was like, oh, as I said to a friend, I think I said to you, he's gets agoraphobia, and he goes, brilliant, business as usual for me. Then, we had a laugh about it, because for me it was nice that I didn't have to feel guilty about or ashamed about not being able to go to places. Um, and I think will be really, it's been a really interesting process for me to notice I want to hang on to this when
Yeah.
things start opening up again. I want to hang on, because currently there are no days really. So a Friday night, I don't sit here currently and think, oh, I'm a loser, I can't go out, I don't have many plans, or that I'm too scared to, can't make plans because I'll probably, I
Mm,
don't have any of that. And I
no,
want to keep that going forward, even when the lockdown and everything,
we have to have learning from this. We have to. And, you know, we have to learn from mistakes, but also things that have worked. We've got to be able to use them. This has been a big leveler for people with trauma, anxiety, depression, that find these things really, really difficult. Surely, if now we all know how it feels, because now we're going out and there's an invisible enemy.
mm,
So we're everything's different. Nothing is as it was. We all feel uneasy. It's like, oh, what are the rules? I don't understand the rules. Social engagement's different. Oh, I'm going to do something wrong. Am I going to get arrested? Am I going to get told off? All of those things, the fear of the unknown, of everything just being different and a little bit scary. Something lurking out there and we don't know what it is because we can't see it. oh, welcome to the world of trauma sufferers.
Mm.
If we can't open up this conversation and take some of this learning and understanding and acceptance and kindness that everybody's talking about and use it moving forward, then what a waste. What a waste. We have a lot to learn from this. And I'm so glad we've been able to do this and just open it up, start that conversation. I would love for other people to have other conversations and join in.
Oh, that's all it can be, isn't it? We didn't know where we were gonna go within this time frame. We
Nope.
knew where we wanted to start, but I think exactly as you say, it's like one comment from someone to someone else might lead to them having conversation. And you're right, it's all about having conversations.
Yes.
And
Stop pretending, have conversations, be a bit more honest, be a bit more open. We're a lot more similar than we care to, I think there's been too much of I'm better than that person's below me, I need to look bigger, I need to look bit. Let's look for the similarities. Let's not look so much for the difference,
yeah.
and it could be easier.
Oh gosh, that's a whole other. See, now I could talk to you for another hour about that.
Well, maybe we should have another one.
Yeah, what will be our next one? Well, I think it could be gardens at the moment because I know you're out in the garden.
Yes, yeah. Oh my God, some of my beans got frosted, but I think I might have recovered them.
There are frost.
Yeah, out of the blue, there was a bit of a frost, and I only know that because my Greek basil got all kind of frost burnt on the top.
Oh God, that's quite brilliant. I'm not laughing. I do not. Just want to say I validate what your Greek basil has
I,
gone through.
I got the connection with your laughter.
We didn't get a frost here. Um, all I do is just film my dad on his lawnmower because he's 6'4" and he's on a lawnmower which is like a Tonka truck for an 8-year-old,
Brilliant.
but he loves it.
Ah, it's comedy genius.
All right, well we'll put this up and I hope people
Yes,
talk.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much, and for your honesty and just your candid humour as well. Brilliant.
We'll speak to each other very soon.
Very, very soon. Thank you ever so much.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.